Hi, I'm Madison. Today I thought it would be really fun to jazz up some of my purses that I have with some bag charms slash accessories. I've been seeing a bunch like these on Pinterest and I wanted to recreate some in my own style. I have a bunch of these ASMR. I have a bunch of these little seed beads from when I went to the Eras tour, so I figured I'd put them to use. I also used to make a lot of earrings. That used to be a huge hobby of mine, making earrings for friends and family and myself. This is one of my craft boxes. This one kind of randomly has like clay stuff and a lot of beads. I figured I'd look through my old beads from my earring making hobby and see what I could use for these fun bag charms. I got these from the Joann's closing sale. I think they're super fun and bright and colorful, but I'm not entirely sure that these are the vibe for today. I also got this mixed bag of purple beads from the Joann's closing sale, and I feel like this is a little bit more the vibe, so I'm gonna add these. I have these really fun wooden ones from a bead shop in Morro Bay. If you live in that area of California Central Coast, go to Beads by the Bay. It's the best bead shop I've ever been to. It's in here. Whoa, there's a lot in here. I have some gold wire, some even tinier beads. I have some fun bead assortments like these. Ooh, I also have some fun hardware like these. So I definitely want to use some of that. I think it'll also be useful. I have some of these old like gold chains. I think I bought them as necklaces. I would always just cut them up and use them for like dangly earrings and stuff like that. I've been into a very like earthy vibe. I say it as I'm wearing like a bright pink jacket, but I feel like this set in particular, I feel like this will come in handy. I really like there's these little leaves in there that I think will be super cute. So let's get started. I don't want to hold this mic the whole time, so I was looking for something to clip it to. And I think this little ant will work perfectly. I'm going to start with like a little piece of this necklace just to give a little bit of space between wherever I hang this from. I actually do want to do a little bit of panning out. Like I think that will just look really cool. I really love stars, so I have these cool stone stars that I would love to incorporate. I definitely want these leaves in there. I think those are so fun. This is the vibe so far. I'm gonna cut off a piece of this chain. I'm just using some wire cutters. I don't know how long. I think I'll cut it around there and I can always cut it shorter if I want to. I'm looping my wire through my first little chain and I'm gonna create a little loop to keep it in there. I have them connected now. Ooh, what do I want my first bead to be? That's cute. Here's where we're at. Got my first bead on there and I made the wire into a little loop at the end so I could add the next thing. I'm gonna go for another purple. The Super Bowl was last weekend and I actually watched it with my friends. Obviously, I was the most excited for Bad Bunny's performance. It was really nice that Bad Bunny let all those football players run around his field. Two of my friends are actually huge Seahawks fans, so it was pretty fun and exciting. It actually wasn't that exciting because it wasn't that close of a game, but it was exciting that they won. I think Bad Bunny did an incredible job at his performance. I loved the obvious themes of community and immigrants. I can like hear one of my neighbors walking around and it's making me not want to talk. Got the third bead on my thing. I actually need to pay attention to the time because I do have a movie night. Whatever. I actually do have to pay attention to the time because I have a movie night later and it's like 5 p.m. right now and I need to leave by like 6-ish. So I might have to finish this tomorrow, but I at least wanted to get it started today. Anyways, I thought that Bad Bunny did an incredible job. His performance was so beautiful and so good. He just did such a great job. It was so lively. I loved the emphasis on immigrants and community and the way that immigrants just bring so much life and color and diversity to our country, which is very much a necessity. I just learned that there was a second Super Bowl halftime show that people were watching, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I added on one of the fun, like, squiggly things. Here's my charm so far. I think it's turning out so cute. I kind of want to have one of these leaves like dangle around here. So I think I'm going to do that. But I also don't know if I should wait to add the dangly stuff until after the full chain is like complete so that I can see like how I want the distribution of the danglies to be. Yeah, maybe I'll wait. It's honestly coming together so well and I think it's so cute already. It's also kind of fun because you just add one thing at a time and it just builds on itself and just gets cuter and cuter. In my last video, I was talking a little bit towards the end about how I was taking some personality quizzes just out of curiosity. I was talking about potentially doing a little get to know me video, but through the lens of talking about my astrological big three, my enneagram score, and my Myers Briggs personality type. For my big three, I'm an Aquarius sun, a Leo rising, and a Pisces moon. I think that the Aquarius sun was kind of the first thing I learned about, which I feel like is what most people learn about first is their sun sign. What I knew the most about it was just that we tend to be a little more apathetic, like we don't show as much emotion, which I feel like can lead to us being a little bit misunderstood because it seems like we just like don't care about stuff. And maybe this is my Pisces moon speaking, so I don't know if I could speak for every Aquarian. I feel like I feel things very deeply. So my Aquarius sun confused me for a while because I just didn't feel like it made sense and I didn't feel like I could relate to it. But in learning more about it, I've also realized that a big trait of an Aquarius is to be a little bit quirkier and just kind of like having your own way of doing things, which I feel like I do resonate with. I very much hate being told what to do, and I just like figuring things out for myself. The main thing I know about my Pisces moon is that it causes me to be very emotional, which I think is definitely accurate. And then my Leo rising is something that I was learning more about recently because I didn't really know much about that. I knew that Leos, they love attention and Leos are very confident. I don't really feel like I like attention that much, which I know is a little bit ironic because I post myself on the internet. I like hate celebrating my birthday usually because I hate being the center of attention in that way. And so I was kind of confused how the whole like Leo rising related to me. Okay, I had to look up Leo rising because I kind of forgot what some of it was. And so much of it really is about like life being a stage and Leos being like center of attention and loving the spotlight and stuff, which again, I said I like don't feel like I resonate with that 100%, but definitely to an extent because I'm choosing to put videos like this of myself out on the internet. But I think a lot of it is also about like wanting to showcase like creative talents, which makes sense. I feel like I want to talk a little bit about my enneagram score, so I'm gonna pull that up. Also, as you can tell, it's like starting to get a little dark out, so I might have to pause this and pick it back up tomorrow. Enneagram type 3 is also known as the achiever, which I first didn't feel like that applied to me very much, and then I kind of looked back on like how I've just always been like in school or in anything that I was pursuing. Like I always wanted to do well. I don't feel that I ever really needed to be the best, but I always wanted to do well at whatever it was that I was pursuing or engaging in. A lot of the things I read also said that Enneagram type 3s can be very like workaholic types, which I don't really think is me because I kind of love like not working sometimes and I love being lazy. Here's my chain, by the way, so far. Ah, it's looking so cute. Wait, I kind of just want to see what it'll end up looking like. Oh, I might have made this like way too long. Oh my god, wait. Is it already like long enough? I feel like that's already long enough. Okay, maybe I should finish this and then I can add the little drapey parts. I think this is way too long. I'm gonna cut this chain in half and add the other half to this side. It's getting like really dark. It says that 3s want to make sure their lives are a success, whether it's like family, friend relationships, or work. I feel like that's super true. Not so much for like the monetary things or like having fancy stuff, being able to buy things, but more so for like the freedom and independence that it brings. And I feel like that describes me so well. Obviously, everyone wants to live well and have nice things and be able to afford good food and a nice house and stuff like that. But ultimately, for me, I just always want to know that I can have financial freedom. I don't ever want to have to depend on another person for my ability to do or go wherever I want to go. I might have to wrap this up because I do have to go to my friend's house in like 15 minutes. I'm going to add this little dangly and then I need to go put coolant in my car, which my parents just got. Hi. I really like this show called Summer House on Bravo. One of the cast members, Paige DeSorbo, she also has a podcast called Giggly Squad, if you know her from that. She has a clip in the show where she's talking about a previous relationship she had, where the guy would pay for a lot of things, like he would book their flights and pay for the vacations and stuff, which like sounds really nice, but there was a time where she, for some reason, ended up wanting to go home early, and he basically said to her, like, when you book the tickets, you can change the flights. Generosity being used to dictate what someone else does in that way is so scary to me. And I know, like, not every partner is going to be that way, but the fact that it could happen has stuck with me. And I now want to know that I will always have financial freedom and independence. I added a dangly. Did I make it too long? Maybe too long. Okay, I have to go put coolant in my car and go to movie night. So this is as far as we've gotten today. Oh, this is what we've got. It's a few days later. I am wearing the same jacket for continuity, but I actually think I'm going to take it off because it's warmer down here than I thought it was going to be. I started editing the footage from the first part of this video, and I realized my choice to clip this onto that little like ant thing wasn't the best because it ended up being closer to what my hands were doing than my mouth. I think it just was too close to all the like sounds that were going on. So I feel like it needs to be like higher up, and hopefully that works better. My friend Ava gave me this Lego set, and I actually filmed a video of myself putting it all together while I talked about some of my backstory and why I left teaching to become an artist. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it down below. This is how far I got last time. I think it's really cute and close to being done, but I think this dangly part is either too long or I need some other danglies to balance it out. But I also feel like if it's going to be placed here, that's just objectively too long. I don't know what to do. Okay, regardless, it needs to come off. So let's start there. Trying to remember what I was talking about last time, and I think I was kind of rambling about my personality quiz results. Okay, I moved the leaf and I shortened it a little, and I think that looks a lot cuter. I also keep seeing a lot of things like this on Pinterest, and I was really wanting to do like a beaded flower video today, but I just didn't have enough time because beaded flowers take like hours to make. I thought maybe I could try and just like make a little beaded leaf in a similar way. So I might try and just like freehand that right now. I don't really have like a concrete reference of what I am picturing in my head, but I feel like I kind of know how to do it just from looking at pictures of other things. I think I need like a base wire and then ones to wrap around it. Another personality quiz that I retook was the Myers Briggs personality test. I had taken this in high school, but I wanted to see if it was the same or if anything had changed. And it turns out that my personality type is the exact same, which I guess like makes sense. I was surprised at it at first, but I feel like your personality is just like your core self, and like interests and hobbies and that kind of stuff can change, but like your personality for the most part remains the same. I think especially after like a certain point in your life, there's not going to be a ton of change there. My Myers Briggs results told me that I am an INFJ. INFJ stands for introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. According to the 16personalities.com, INFJs tend to approach life with deep thoughtfulness and imagination. Okay, wait. I have a different game plan. I'm actually going to cut a longer wire. The INFJ personality type is also referred to as the advocate. I'm actually going to use these beads because they're even smaller than these ones. I'm actually going to move some beads into a different container so that I have somewhere to put these, because I don't just want them rattling around this whole lid in front of me. It says that despite having big goals and ambitions, INFJs are not just like idle dreamers. We really want to like make things happen. It says people with this personality type care about integrity and they're rarely satisfied until they've done what they know to be right. And I feel like that's super true. A lot of times I'll like redo things, or sometimes I won't even start something because I'm not sure how to do it perfectly. And then I also concern myself a lot with other people's feelings and making sure that I'm just like doing the right thing in general in life. I try to have like a strong moral compass and think about things ethically. And I do get very outraged when I see other people doing things that I don't believe is right, which I feel like it's a really hard time to feel that deeply about things in the world and in this country right now. I feel like every time I open TikTok, I see some new horrendous atrocity that is being committed by our government, and it can just be like so debilitating at times. Although I also have like so much privilege that it's hard to feel valid in those feelings. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of just adding beads and then twisting the wire around itself. So I'm trying to create the illusion of leaves. I also think it's interesting that it says for INFJs, success doesn't come from money or status, where my type 3 enneagram personality says that I do care a lot about status, or at least that I'm like conscious of it, which I guess like, yeah, I am conscious of it, and I'm conscious of the ways that status and social currency are power. Oh no, this is not going well. It also says that a lot of INFJs find purpose through helping others, which makes a lot of sense why I initially started my career as a preschool teacher. There's a whole section of this site that's the strengths and weaknesses of an INFJ. One of the strengths is being passionate. It says that INFJs really want to chase their dreams and they shoot for the stars. And I feel like this last year or so of my life has really shown me that. In large part, I left teaching because the school I was working at closed down. But the reason that I decided not to just get another teaching job, it's not a sustainable job because of all of the obstacles that they have systemically. And so when I realized that teaching was not going to be my forever, and I started brainstorming other things that I like to do and ways that I would like to spend my life, I came back to art and realized that like that was really my passion and my dream and what I wanted to do. But it can be really hard to make it in the art world, especially starting from scratch and having like zero connections and not much background. Like I went to college for child development. I didn't study art. I don't have an art degree, but something in me was telling me to just try. Very delusional. A couple of the INFJ weaknesses that I really resonate with. One of them is sensitive to criticism. I think I definitely am quite sensitive to criticism. As much as I want to say like things don't hurt me, they do, especially when it's like something that I really care about and like I believe it to be like true. Or like another one is reluctant to open up, which I think is funny because I kind of was saying that earlier, I think when I was in my backyard at the beginning of this video, about how like I am kind of a private person despite the fact that I'm like choosing to put myself on the internet. It says that INFJ personalities value honesty and authenticity, but they are also private. I feel like this cannot be the best method. It looks so messed up. I think I need to start over. Which actually brings me into another INFJ weakness, which is perfectionistic. While this is a wonderful quality in many ways, it doesn't leave room for the messiness of real life. Which, like, yeah, I know, but like, this is ugly. Also, I just like in general, I am a very messy person, so the perfectionism kind of comes out in like strange ways, and then it's like completely ignored in others. I actually feel like reading this kind of validated a lot of the things that I've been doing recently to just like structure my work life in a healthier, more balanced way. It felt really hard to be productive because like I no longer have a boss, and that just like hasn't ever been a reality for me. I mean, since I was young, like I've been in school and I've had to adhere to like teacher deadlines, and then as you get older, you go to college and you have to adhere to the professor's deadlines, and working like my first jobs and stuff, like I've always had a boss telling me where to be, when, and what to do, and there's performance reviews, and you just like have to be living and working up to someone else's standard. Leaving the traditional job world and trying to make it on my own has been really challenging in the sense of motivation and productivity. Another one of the weaknesses, which I don't know if I would 100% consider this a weakness, but it's avoiding the ordinary. It says INFJs yearn to do extraordinary things with their lives, but it's hard to achieve anything extraordinary without breaking it down into small, manageable steps. And I feel like that's what the entirety of last year was for me, was like taking this big dream and goal of mine of like being a self-employed artist and being able to make a full-time living off of my art, and taking that dream and figuring out like, okay, how am I going to get there? Like, what are the steps to get there? And I feel like I did a lot of searching and learning last year to figure out what that's going to look like for me. If I had read this a year ago, maybe it would have been helpful, but it is nice to still read it in retrospect and to know that like I kind of did everything right. Like I did everything right for my personality type and how I was best going to get to that conclusion. Because unless they translate translate their dreams into everyday routines and to-do lists, they may struggle to turn their grand visions into reality. And that really was the hardest part of it all for me, was like, how do I break this down into manageable day-to-day tasks? And the thing that saved me quite literally was to-do lists. I'm also filming a like productive week in my life video this week. Part of what I'm talking about is how I get myself to be productive as like a lazy type B person who is self-employed and doesn't have somebody else managing their schedule and keeping them on task. Okay, new idea. I think I'm just gonna like twist them around each other and we'll see how it turns out. I had to get myself into somewhat of a schedule. It's a pretty loose schedule, but the thing that has really saved me was creating to-do lists like for every single day so that I know what I'm expecting myself to do and the things that I need to get done to make the bigger dreams into more of a reality. Even just like the task of my first kind of like baby step into the art industry, which was launching my own collection of paintings that I turned into prints that are shoppable on my website. Figuring out how to get to that end goal took me a lot of time and research into what the specific business that I wanted to create was. And so now this year I want to release another collection, and I now know what each of those little steps is to get to launch day. And I went ahead in my calendar and I basically just scheduled out when I needed to complete each thing by in order to launch my new collection on the date that I want to. So it makes a lot of sense that I needed to break things down into more manageable steps to be able to bring my dreams to fruition. Okay, I feel like that's enough of like the personality quiz stuff because I don't like having to like read things. I want to just like yap and craft. So instead, I'm just going to talk about things that I love and enjoy. And I feel like that's always a fun way to get to know someone as well through their interests. Obviously, I love art and crafting, but I also have a lot of interests outside of that. I love movies and TV shows. When I was in college, I actually was thinking that I wanted to go into the film industry, and I thought it would be really cool because I loved my child development program. I just, even as a young college student, I wasn't entirely sure if it was going to be the career for me just because I knew how low pay and underappreciated it could be. So I started exploring other options and things that I could do with a child development degree. And I thought that a really cool thing could be to get into children's TV or media in some way. And I still think that would be cute, but it's not really a dream of mine anymore. And if I'm being super honest, my favorite genre is actually horror, which like very different from children's TV. So my favorite horror movies are some of the classics like Sinister or anything in the Conjuring universe. I also love some of the older ones. I love the Scream franchise, or I did love the Scream franchise before they fired Melissa Barrera for speaking out in support of Palestine. Now I'm like not even sure if I'm gonna watch the new one, which just really sucks. Like I just like loved that franchise. I love horror comedy. Horror comedy is my favorite form of comedy. I feel like this is still not looking good, but it's looking better than the other one did, so I'm gonna keep going. I also love anything Jordan Peele. I actually was talking about this with a few friends of mine. I feel like most people's favorite Jordan Peele movie is Get Out, which is a masterpiece, but I actually love Us. I think that whole concept is so interesting and I think about it a lot. Another one of my favorite directors outside of horror is Christopher Nolan. I also love a psychological kind of movie, or like I was gonna say psychological thriller, but I don't know if that really encompasses what is Christopher Nolan, which is kind of those like trippy, like sort of mess with your mind type of movies. I love stuff like that. My favorite Christopher Nolan film is actually a lesser known one, but it's called The Prestige. Someone in high school actually made me watch that movie, and I'm so glad they did because it's one of my all-time favorite movies. I also love Interstellar and Inception, but The Prestige is just a masterpiece of a movie. It's so good, but you really have to pay close attention to understand what's going on. Okay, maybe I'm making like a four-leaf clover situation. I don't know. I might just throw this away. Literally, what is that? Wait, why did it look kind of good when it focused? I feel like it doesn't look good in real life, like at all. No, it's actually like so ugly. Okay, what else can I do? I'm not going to say that was a waste of time because I learned a lot from it, but it was kind of a waste of time. I don't know. That was so disappointing. Like in my head, it was going to turn out so cool. I also really love musicals. My favorite musical of all time is Rent. Besides Rent, I would say that my top three, in like no particular order, are probably Mamma Mia, Hairspray, and Wicked. I feel like that looks cute. My favorite TV show of all time is Haunting of Hill House. I rewatch it like approximately every 6 months or so. It's just like the most beautiful horror anything that I think I've ever seen. That is like a perfect show to me. I honestly love Mark Flanagan and his mind so much. If anything bad ever comes out about him, I'm going to be so devastated. Previously, I've always said that my comfort shows are Criminal Minds, Grey's Anatomy, and Gilmore Girls. But I tried to do my typical fall rewatch of Gilmore Girls, and I just like couldn't get that far into it. Like, I don't know if it was, I just like kept seeing the absolute parentification of Rory and just how immature Lorelai is, and it made it just like not fun to watch. But I feel like I've watched it since going through my child development program and learning about all that kind of stuff, and it was still enjoyable, but this time it just like was not. So I might be open to new comfort shows. I might have to explore some other like shows with a lot of seasons like those, because I need like a lot of seasons in my comfort show because it needs to just like be a good like background show and stuff. Okay, put those on so far. It definitely needs some stuff on this side. I have this little lotus charm that I think is really cute. I'm gonna put that on there. I also really enjoy reading as a hobby. I recently read Pride and Prejudice, which I loved, and I still need to watch the movie. But I also really like psychological thrillers in books. I really enjoyed Housemaid, and I saw that they made it into a movie, but it has Sydney Sweeney in it, so I don't know if I can watch that. I also, in the past couple years, have found the genre of romantasy, so that's been really fun. I was a huge A Court of Thorns and Roses fan. I'm definitely a Rhysand girly, but that author is also problematic, so to read all of her books, I either got them from the library or downloaded free PDFs from the internet so that I could read them. I made this little thing that I thought would be like fun and clacky. I used to be really, really big into thrifting. I feel like since I started creating more, I just haven't been like shopping as much. One of my friends, Daria, was saying that that can happen when you're creating more, you consume less. I still enjoy thrifting, but I just don't do it nearly as much as I used to. Here's how we're looking so far. Actually, I have to show it this way now because the lotus chain is there. I was gonna add more, but looking at it now, I kind of like it how it is. It's a little irregular, but I feel like it looks balanced in a way, and I feel like it looks really fun. That might be done. Wait, it actually looks so cute. I'm kind of obsessed with this, and I want to make more for my other bags. How cute! Oh, I can't wait to put this on my bag. I love how my bag charm turned out, and I hope this inspires you to make one yourself. If you do want a more in-depth video about like how I use like all these tools and how I kind of like manipulate the wire to be how I want it to be and make jewelry out of it, I can do that, but I'm sure there's other better, more clear, concise videos on the internet of people doing that. So if you want to learn, honestly, probably just like go to somebody else. But if you specifically want to know about anything that I did here, let me know. I can maybe do that. I am working on my camera setup to be able to like have a camera that just shows like what my hands are doing while I'm still like yapping and talking, but I'm not quite there yet. I post videos every Thursday at 8 p.m, so make sure you're subscribed if you want a notification. I also would love for you to comment down below either your big three, your Enneagram score if you know it, or your Myers Briggs personality type if you know it. I think that kind of stuff is so interesting, so if you know any of yours, let me know. I would love to see. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, whatever time of day it is. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!